Hello, everyone.
Hello.
And
You
going
My
live.
cousin.
you have two screens open.
What's that?
You know you have two screens open.
You can see my two screens?
Yeah. So you have the one with you with the lotus flower, and then you have the other one with dealing with emotional immature parents.
Oh,
That's-
that's actually me, Bridget. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Let me change it.
I appreciate everyone coming in.
Hi, I'm here.
Well, hello, Naomi. How are you?
Hi. I wouldn't miss it. You told me this morning. What?
Thank you.
Welcome. No, thank you.
Thank you. All right, Kimmy. I'm here. I see Kimmy, that you are dealing with emotionally immature parents, the VA, but I don't see me, but that's something I'll have to work with next time. But thank you everyone for coming. Thank you for coming. So I'm going to introduce myself, and I see all my people here. So nice to see everyone. My name is Vanita Qualls, and I'm a licensed mental health counselor, licensed drug and alcohol counselor in the state of Georgia and Massachusetts. And I've been working with a lot of people, and I decided to create this workshop on adverse childhood experiences, but also adult children of emotionally immature parents. And as I work with clients, I find that this is a topic to certain mental health issues, anxiety, depression, low self-esteem, low confidence. And so I think that as I created this masterclass, I thought it was really important so people can get an understanding of personality. And yeah, can everyone, if you don't mind, mute yourselves just so we can close up some of that background, if you don't mind. But I think that it's important for us as clinicians to really talk about it. So I have some clinicians here that I've worked with, and I have people that I've worked with in the past also. So I think that it's important that I bring this topic to the forefront, dealing with emotionally immature parents, because they set the stage for children to behave possibly like them, but to also create certain mental health disorders. And I think that this is a important topic for teachers. My uncle is a teacher. He was a superintendent of schools, and I just sent this to him too. And he says, "What an important topic to talk about." So I wanted to bring this forward and discuss it. So I'm going to put my PowerPoint on. I created this today. I think I did a pretty good job. Let me know if if you guys can see it. Can everyone see my PowerPoint?
No, not yet.
Okay. Do I need to share?
Yeah, share screen.
Share screen. Boom.
Okay, now enlarge your, there you go. Put on presenter mode.
Can you see it?
Perfect.
Yay. Thank you, cousin. I appreciate you. That's my cousin, Michelle. So I put this PowerPoint together, and just to give a background of what people may experience with dealing with parents of emotionally immature parents, adult children, and it don't even have to be adult children, it's any child right about now, and the effects and the long-term effects of it. I'm not going to go through the whole PowerPoint because it is rather long, but I just wanted to share some of this information. So I'm just going to introduce myself in the PowerPoint. So this is me. And my name is Vanita Qualls. I'm a licensed mental health counselor, licensed addiction counselor. I have over 40 years of experience helping people work through challenges in their lives. I'm a certified anger management specialist, and I'm also a certified domestic violence specialist. I'm the CEO of Soulful Essentials, and it's a mental health practice here in Massachusetts. And I'm also the CEO of Power of Self, which is a mindset transformation coaching academy. My specialty is trauma, and so I'm a somatic and holistic practitioner. And I've been trained in IFS, Internal Family Systems, which was created by Dick Schwartz, brain spotting, and that's by David Grand, EMDR, Ericksonian Hypnosis Level 1. I'm also educated in the Enneagram, and I've been trained by 𝐰𝐻𝐿 in Positive Intelligence, and DB Bedford, give DB a shout out on emotional intelligence. And I also do a meditation, sound bowl healing, and I'm also a 𝐰𝐢𝐭𝐡 Reiki master. And the reason why I have a lot of those somatic modalities, I think it's important to understand the mind, body, and soul when it comes to healing. And my education consists of 2 master's degrees from Cambridge College. I have a master's in management, and I have a master's in mental health and concentration in mental health and addiction. And I'm also enrolled in a PhD program with Quantum University in integrative medicine. So that's a little bit of background about myself. I love education. I love to learn. As I work with my clients, some of the people that may be on here, they know I'm always using some of these modalities in some of my clients and some of my mentors, mentees. So I find that it's healing, it's helpful, and it can really assist them. So I just wanted to talk about the traits of emotionally immature parents. Now, I know I have some clinicians on here, and when we're dealing with people, we all can have certain types of traits. The problem becomes which trait is dominant. So emotionally immature parents often struggle with the responsibilities and emotional demands of parenting. And some key traits that may characterize emotionally immature parents are mental health issues, such as narcissism. This is the big word today. Narcissistic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, and schizophrenia. And there's other mental health issues, such as depression, anxiety, right? Bipolar, right? And then there's also addiction issues. There's drug and alcohol, there's sex, there's gambling, there's eating, and there's other addictions that cause dysfunction in the family. I wanted to talk about the role of emotions, because as we talk about immature parents or even immature people, it has to do with the emotions. And I was thinking about the role of emotions. I was seeing my clients today, they were talking about how they feel inside, how they have come from different places from the beginning of therapy or the beginning of coaching to where they are now. And they talk about their emotions. And I want you to, and I want people to, because it's important. So the role of emotion is to protect us, to warn us, and to avert us from certain dangers. Emotions help us with decision making, making a great decision, a better decision, a right decision, a correct decision. Has to do with communication. How do we communicate with each other? Are we yelling at each other? Are we angry all the time at each other?
See, this one's 8 pages. So
Social bonding.
Form 1.
Hey, Mel.
So
Social bonding. How do we bond socially with people? What's our emotions look like, right? It also has to do with survival. what people do to survive, how their emotions help them survive. Our emotions have to do with motivation. How motivated are you? If you have low self-esteem and low confidence, you feel bad about yourself, you may have a lack of or less motivation. Emotions deals with self-awareness. Am I aware of my emotions? And how do I become aware of my emotions? How do I become self-aware? That's why people come into therapy or come into a coaching environment. So they become self-aware of what's causing some dysfunction in their life, and they can correct it. Emotions have to do with learning and memory. If you have stress, it can affect your memory, your concentration, and your learning. Emotions have to do with your health and your well-being. Stress causes death. And so if I don't get my emotions in order, I could have a stroke. Identity and self-concept. Who am I? Who am I? As I do internal family systems, as I do brain spotting, as I do some of the modalities that I work with, I have people say, who will I be afterwards? If I've lived this life for so long, who will I be? If it goes away, if this part of me goes away, this emotion that I've been carrying for so long, if I'm angry, if I'm mad. Coping and resilience. How do I cope with my emotions, right? That's this big emotional intelligence right now. Creativity and problem solving. Cultural and social norms. What is that? What are social norms? My social norms in my home might be different than yours. My culture may be different than yours. And how does my emotions play into being in harmony with you? Ethics and morality. We know that's a big one. DEI is big. Ethics, having moral compass, having morality, adaptation and flexibility, and having the ability to have good conflict resolution, and having empathy and compassion. This is big when a person is suffering from mental health. Do I have empathy and compassion for what I've been through? Do I have empathy and compassion for myself or for my family or for others? The motivational energy, we just talked about that. Behavioral cues. What's my behavior look like? Do people notice my behavior? Do I notice my behavior? When children are acting up, we give them a behavior cue. We look at them a certain way. Creative expression, being able to be creative within self. Being able to express ourselves positively. And again, moral and ethical development and influence on perception. And perception is about how I look at myself. How do I see me and how do other people see me? Is my influence enough to help someone else? Is my emotions in check enough to be able to help someone else? So some of the traits of emotionally immature parents are egocentric behaviors. The ego is way high. Inconsistency and being unpredictable. That's a lot. A lot of parents that are out here are not consistent. And the children are, as we call, maternified. They're seeing about themselves because they lack consistency. Poor emotional regulation. They fly off the handle. They're cussing their children out, cussing the wife out, cuss you out. They don't care who you are, right? Poor emotional regulation. Immature communications. They're talking to their children as if they're adults. Limited emotional availability. They don't even know that they're doing that. Right? Narcissistic and borderline personality disorders. These are very serious personality disorders. We talk about that a lot, narcissism a lot out here. We don't talk too much about borderline personality, but that's a critical factor out here with people. They lack empathy. They lack sympathy. They're argumentative. They're always right. And they're very, very difficult to get along with. And that's another whole topic. That's another whole masterclass that I love to do. Overly critical and perfectionist. They think, I'm perfect, you're not. I'm going to criticize you, make me feel better, right? Because I'm the perfect one. The avoidance of responsibilities. And this is serious too, because the children that are out here suffering because of emotionally immature parents, because they avoid their responsibilities as a parent, suffer. Abandonment issues and attachment issues. People are growing up and they have poor attachment issues, poor relationship issues, because they were abandoned young. They don't know how to be with others, care for others, have sympathy for others. Dependency or role reverse, being maternified. I have clients that I have spoken to and they, say I was 12 years old feeding my children because mom and dad was out running the streets. I'm cooking food. I'm cooking a 4-course meal. I'm making sure the kids take a bath. I'm making sure that the kids go to bed. Lack of boundaries. Lack of accountability. And they have difficulty with intimacy. Being able to hug their children, tell their children that I love you, I care about you. And they have black and white thinking. I'll have to correct that. They have black and white thinking. There is no gray, there's no in between. There's emotional enmeshment or detachment. They're detaching from their own behaviors, that they don't think that they're wrong. They lack boundaries and they don't think that that's wrong. They're not understanding or can't inner reflect that something is wrong. The inability to provide guidance to help their child, to provide structure. Manipulative behaviors, right? Don't do as I do, do as I say. They're doing bad behavior, but they don't want you to do it. Manipulating other people, we call it triangulation, right? They're the head, the mother, the child, telling lies over here, telling lies over there, making people fight amongst each other, and they're sitting back, they're the gas, I call them, they're the gaslighters, they're the fire starters. And they're watching everybody burn. Emotionally reactive, always flying off the handle, have no emotional control. Inability to nurture autonomy. They have no ability to give love. And they overreact to children's mistakes, to their child's mistakes. You're dumb, you're stupid, you effed up, you're this, you're that. And then they have immature social. So this is just a list. The list goes on. But this was some of the ones that caught my attention as I speak to some of the clients that I work with. This is what comes up when they speak with me. So ACEs are categorized into 3 main groups. And it's abuse, neglect, and household dysfunction. ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. Adverse childhood experiences are potentially traumatic events that occur in childhood from 0 to 18 years old. Because 18, you're an adult in most states. These experiences have lifelong lasting effects on health, behavior, and life potential. So I wanted to share, I'm not going to play the whole thing, but I wanted to share this YouTube. And if no one knows, this is Dr. Nadine Burke-Harris. She was a former Surgeon General for California. And I really like this YouTube. I did see her. I know she spoke on a stand with Oprah. And I wanted to share this video because I thought it was really interesting to see. So I'm just gonna let this play out here. And then I want to play her when she talked about adverse childhood experiences.
In the mid-90s, the CDC and Kaiser Permanente discovered an exposure that dramatically increased the risk for 7 out of 10 of the leading causes of death in the United States. In high doses, it affects brain development, the immune system, hormonal systems, and even the way our DNA is read and transcribed. Folks who are exposed in very high doses have triple the lifetime risk of heart disease and lung cancer, and a 20-year difference in life expectancy. And yet doctors today are not trained in routine screening or treatment. Now, the exposure I'm talking about is not a pesticide or packaging chemical. It's childhood trauma. Okay, what kind of trauma am I talking about here? I'm not talking about failing a test or losing a basketball game. I am talking about threats that are so severe or pervasive that they literally get under our skin and change our physiology. Things like abuse or neglect, or growing up with a parent who struggles with mental illness or substance dependence. Now, for a long time, I viewed these things in the way I was trained to view them, either as a social problem, refer to social services, or as a mental health problem, refer to mental health services. And then something happened to make me rethink my entire approach. When I finished my residency, I wanted to go someplace where I felt really needed, someplace where I could make a difference. So I came to work for California Pacific Medical Center, one of the best private hospitals in Northern California. And together, we opened a clinic in Bayview, Hunters Point, one of the poorest, most underserved neighborhoods in San Francisco. Now, prior to that point, there had been only one pediatrician in all of Bayview to serve more than 10,000 children. So we hung a shingle and we were able to provide top quality care regardless of ability to pay. It was so cool. We targeted the typical health disparities, access to care, immunization rates, asthma hospitalization rates, and we hit all of our numbers. We felt very proud of ourselves. But then I started noticing a disturbing trend. A lot of kids were being referred to me for ADHD, or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. But when I actually did a thorough history and physical, what I found was that for most of my patients, I couldn't make a diagnosis of ADHD.
That's right.
Most of the kids I was seeing had experienced such severe trauma that it felt like something else was going on. Somehow, I was missing something important. Now, before I did my residency, I did a master's degree in public health. And one of the things that they teach you in public health school is that if you're a doctor and you see 100 kids that all drink from the same well, and 98 of them develop diarrhea, you can go ahead and write that prescription for dose after dose after dose of antibiotics, or you can walk over and say, what the hell is in this well? So I began reading everything that I could get my hands on about how exposure to adversity affects the developing brains and bodies of children. And then one day, my colleague walked into my office and he said, Dr. Burke, have you seen this? In his hand was a copy of a research study called the Adverse Childhood Experiences Study. That day changed my clinical practice and ultimately my career. The Adverse Childhood Experiences Study is something that everybody needs to know about. It was done by Dr. Vince Felitti at Kaiser and Dr. Bob Onda at the CDC, and together they asked 17,500 adults about their history of exposure to what they called adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs. Those include physical, emotional, or sexual abuse, physical or emotional neglect, parental mental illness, substance dependence, incarceration, parental separation or divorce, or domestic violence. For every yes, you would get a point on your ACE score. And then what they did was they correlated these ACE scores against health outcomes. What they found was striking. Two things. Number one, ACEs are incredibly common. 67% of the population had at least one ACE, and 12.6%, 1 in 8, had 4 or more ACEs. The second thing that they found was that there was a dose-response relationship between ACEs and health outcomes. The higher your ACE score, the worse your health outcomes. For a person with an ACE score of 4 or more, their relative risk of chronic obstructive pulmonary disease was 2.5 times that of someone with an ACE score of 0. For hepatitis, it was also 2.5 times. For depression, it was 4.5 times. For suicidality, it was 12 times. A person with an ACE score of 7 or more had triple the lifetime risk of lung cancer and 3.5 times the risk of ischemic heart disease, the #1 killer in the United States of America. Well, of course, this makes sense. You know, some people looked at this data and they said, come on, you know, you have a rough childhood, you're more likely to drink and smoke and do all these things that are going to ruin your health. This isn't science. This is just bad behavior. It turns out this is exactly where the science comes in. We now understand better than we ever have before how exposure to early adversity affects the developing brains and bodies of children. It affects areas like the nucleus accumbens, the pleasure and reward center of the brain that is implicated in substance dependence. It inhibits the prefrontal cortex, which is necessary for impulse control and executive function, a critical area for learning. And on MRI scans, we see measurable differences in the amygdala, the brain's fear response center. So there are real neurologic reasons why folks exposed to high doses of adversity are more likely to engage in high-risk behavior. And that's important to know. But it turns out that even if you don't engage in any high-risk behavior, you're still more likely to develop heart disease or cancer. The reason for this has to do with the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, the brain's and body's stress response system that governs our fight or flight response. How does it work? Well, imagine you're walking in the forest and you see a bear. Immediately, your hypothalamus sends a signal to your pituitary, which sends a signal to your adrenal gland that says, release stress hormones, adrenaline, cortisol. And so your heart starts to pound, your pupils dilate, your airways open up, and you are ready to either fight that bear or run from the bear. And that is wonderful if you're in a forest and there's a bear. But the problem is what happens when the bear comes home every night. And this system is activated over and over and over again. And it goes from being adaptive or life-saving to maladaptive or health damaging. Children are especially sensitive to this repeated stress activation because their brains and bodies are just developing. High doses of adversity not only affect brain structure and function, they affect the developing immune system, developing hormonal systems, and even the way our DNA is read and transcribed.
And I'm going to stop that right there. And I'll have Kimmy put that in the chat for anyone that wants to view that. So as I work, so I love that video.
They realized Danielle was.
I love that video. And because when I work with people, and I've been doing mental health for over 10 years, I've worked with children, young children, 6 years old. I've had people calling me now asking me, can you see my 6-year-old? I think the youngest was like 4. Can you see my 4-year-old? Right? And so we know that this is a public health issue. It goes beyond like mental health. It's a public health issue. So I wanted to look at ACEs here, the conventional ACEs. When I see my clients, when I see some of my people, they get a whole bunch of stuff to do first. They get ACEs, Adverse Childhood Experience Assessment. They get a depression, PHQ-9 assessment. They get a GAD-7 for anxiety. They get a suicide assessment. They get a mood disorder so I can see if there's bipolar there. They get a PTSD and life events. I need to know what happened to you so I can understand why you're here. And so when I started to work with people and the ACEs came out, I said, this is like a no-brainer. And so when we look at some of the ACEs, living in foster care is a lot. It's traumatic. Taking children from their parents, even if the parents are bad, and putting in them with strangers is traumatic. Bullying in school, bullying in the workplace, bullying is traumatic. Community violence. Some communities are safer than others. Traumatic. Having neighborhood safety is a need, right? Racism, traumatic. Watching people go without or be stigmatized because of who they are, traumatic. The abuses in the home, neglect, household dysfunction. This is what causes ACEs. Like she was talking about, physical abuse, inflicting physical injury upon a child. Emotional abuse, verbal assault, belittling, or emotional manipulation. Sexual abuse, any sexual act forced upon a child. I heard Nadine say ACEs is unfortunately very common. As I work with people and I hear people speak to me and to hear about the sexual abuse that they've endured as a youth, as a child, and here you are as a grown adult trying to be, but you're carrying this deadly secret of the past, causes ACEs. Neglect, physical neglect, failure to provide necessary food, shelter, or medical care. Emotional neglect, failure to provide emotional love, support, or a sense of belonging. Household dysfunction. I tell clients sometimes, I don't care what house you live in, what's going on inside. You can live in $1 million mansion and people are kicking each other's butts up in there. Household dysfunction. Substance abuse, living with someone who abuses alcohol or drugs. Gambling, put gambling in there, put eating in there. Anything that's making them feel good temporarily. Mental illness, living with someone who has a mental health issue. Bipolar, schizophrenia, PTSD, untreated, undiagnosed. Domestic violence, exposure to violence between caregivers. I'm a certified domestic violence counselor. I run groups at a women's shelter here in New Bedford, Massachusetts. And to hear the atrocities of what the women went through, but also that the children in the home witnessing it too. Parental separation or divorce, experiencing the separation of and divorce of parents, that's trauma. Most children say my parents separated because of me and they don't have nothing to do with it. But they internalize it and make it theirs. Incarcerated relatives, having a family member who is incarcerated, trauma. Dad's not there, mom's not there, somebody else is raising them up, not treating them kindly like their parents would, trauma. So again, adverse childhood experiences can impact opportunities. It can injure you. It creates mental health, has a lot to do with maternal health. She talked about changing the DNA, the physiology of our body structure, trauma, infectious disease, chronic disease, and risky behaviors. And I'm going to stop on my next slide. I love this slide. And it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. As I work with people, I talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And if some of my people are on here, they haven't got it, they're going to get it. And they know they'll get it. But as I work with people, I talk about coming into self-actualization. And that's self-fulfillment. But there's a basic thing that we all need. Maslow says basic needs of food, shelter, water, warmth, rest. That's the building foundation. And everything else can go upwards. Once you have that, you come into safety needs. Feeling secure, feeling safe. I'm warm, I'm eating, I'm sleeping, I'm getting my rest, I have better concentration. You know, I'm brushing my teeth, I'm combing my hair, I'm taking a bath. Then you come up to belongingness and love needs. That creates intimate relationships and friendships. I'm able to see myself differently, to see myself better, to see myself with some love, and I can share it with others. And then you have the esteem needs, the prestige and the feeling of accomplishment. Now I'm able to go to work, whether it's a part-time job, full-time, I'm able to stabilize myself. I'm able to make some money. I'm able to go to school. I'm able to learn. I'm able to do. And as you continue that, you come into self-actualization. And it's achieving one full potential, including creative activities, being able to be, to think, to do. So I'm going to stop my PowerPoint right there. And I find that as I do this work, I come into a lot of clients with adverse childhood experiences due to adult, immature parents. They're adult now, adult children of emotionally immature parents. And from that, they go through a whole world of dysfunction. Don't they, Marion, my fellow clinician? Don't they, Ethel, my girls, my fellow clinicians? My sisters are on here. My sisters in arms are on here. This work we do as clinicians. I have a teacher on here. Des, teacher, working with kids, yes. And so I wanted to bring this forward because I think it's important as we coming into a new year, ending this year, but coming into a new year, so how do we as a community help each other, even recognize our own stuff and help each other and help the community, because it's not getting better. I want to tell you that right now. It's not. I get 5 calls a day from, the employee assistance program looking for someone to take in clients. That's your workplace employee assistance program that helps you get to mental health. Psychology Today is where you find mental health clinicians. Get a lot of calls from there. The schools are calling. DCF, Department of Social Services, looking for clinicians due to adverse childhood experiences. I really want to bring this forward. I have so many people that have been waiting for me to talk about this and other things, because there's a part 2 tomorrow. But I want to bring some that's in the forefront. So as you think about this, you'll think about, how do I, as an adult, reflect on my past, being raised with maybe an emotionally immature parent, or if you know someone is being raised by an emotionally immature parent, what do I do? How do I help them? because the mental health in the United States and around the world is increasing. It's increasing. And it's due to some of these topics that I just shared. I know I can't save the world by myself. I can't even. But me going live, I'm bringing it out there. Is that we have to look at each other and ourselves and figure out what do I need to do to, number one, do better, and to, number one, help somebody else. And that's coming into self-awareness. And so a little bit about me, I was raised in foster care. And the people that raised me, thank God, adopted me. But I'll say this too. The house wasn't always happy. And so we go through things. As most clinicians come into this field, we've gone through something. And then we come in to heal others as we've tried to heal ourselves. We're also known as wounded healers. But I thought this was important to say because when we talk tomorrow, the next meeting, I'm going to talk about ACEs. And the people that are here, there is a book. My lovely VA Kimmy, which I love, she's put this together for me. I don't know how she does it with me. I thank her so much. Thank you, Kimmy. Has put a wonderful book together. In the book, there is an adverse childhood experience assessment. And I want you to take it. As some of my clients are here right now, they know I give homework. So you have to take the adverse childhood experience test, share it, print it, share it. As I work with other women in this shelter, I have a folder for them. And I tell them, don't be greedy with it, share it. Because if you heal, you can help somebody else heal or get some knowledge and self-awareness. So that's the end of my presentation. I hope it was informational. I hope it was filled with some inner work that you could look at for yourself or for someone else. And I want you to say to yourself, it's okay. Healing is possible if you are one of these adult children of emotionally immature parents. You're going to be all right. So I thank you. Till tomorrow, 4 o'clock.